Right everyone, welcome to Arsenal Fan TV, here today to discuss our 3-0 victory over West Ham United yesterday in the Premier League. A very comprehensive victory for Arsenal, and it leaves us just 1 point behind second place. Things are shaping up very, very nicely for us at the moment, and this was an excellent result considering we go into that game against Monaco in the Champions League where we've got a massive task on our hands to go out there and win 3-0 to have a chance of progressing in the Champions League. However, this result was certainly a very good one. A 3-0 win against a fairly resilient West Ham side. It was certainly a game of two halves. That first half, West Ham made it very, very difficult for us. We did see some rotation in the Arsenal team, first and foremost. I think the right changes were made. I think we dropped Santi Cazorla, rested him, should I say, for that game against Monaco, where I think we're going to need him. No inclusion of Rosicky in the team, which came as a bit of a surprise to me. And we saw Aaron Ramsey come back into the starting 11. Monreal and Chambers at fullback. And just quickly regarding our fullbacks, Monreal I thought was superb yesterday, but Chambers, going forward, I thought he was excellent. I did feel at times that he was maybe a little bit targeted. I think it's becoming more and more obvious to me that he is more suited to that centre-back role than he is at right-back. But with Debussy injured, he does a fine job there. It's just at times Jarvis did kind of toy with him a little, and I did feel we were certainly exposed and targeted on that area of the pitch. But nonetheless, he had a good game, and the backline kept a clean sheet. David Ospina was very good in goal, and overall it was a solid performance from our defence. Further up the pitch, we started with Olivier Giroud, and we didn't see Danny Welbeck starting the team. We saw Theo Walcott come back into the side, which was great to see. Regarding Walcott, it was a out of sorts game from him, I think it would be fair to say. I think he looks better on the TV than he does when you're actually watching him in the ground, but he does get into some very good positions. He uses his pace to a very good extent. It's just he needs to be a bit more clinical in front of goal. I felt his decision making, along with Mesut Ozil's, was a little bit off the ball yesterday. There were times when he should have been putting the ball in the back, and now unfortunately he didn't take them. But I think some of that is down to Arsene Wenger's fault. I think he dropped him when he was in a good bit of form, and this has just stuttered his rehabilitation in a way. But I'm not overly concerned about Walcott. I do believe that he will come into a fine array of form at some point. But we looked very good. The attacking influx going forward looked very exciting. Walcott and Sanchez on the flanks. Mesut Ozil pulling the strings in behind. Ozil had he didn't have a bad game by any means, but his decision making was pretty poor at times. He had a chance where he should have put the ball in the back of the net in the first half, where he got into a very good position, which he made himself to do so, but he aimed it right at Adrian, and then he had a chance in the second half where he miraculously crossed it to Walcott, who barely got a touch on it, and it looked a lot easier for him to actually put the ball in the back of the net. So really taking a look at that first half as a whole, I think the word that was summed up perfectly was very, very, very static, especially for that first 45 minutes up until the Olivier Giroud goal. West Ham made it very, very compact for us, and it was very difficult to break them down. I certainly found that that was the reoccurring theme with us. I did also feel that we did very well defensively in a sense, because although West Ham didn't offer a lot going forward, I felt that Ospina made an excellent save to keep us in the game when it was still 0-0. An excellent shot from Kevin Nolan, an excellent reflex save from David Ospina, worthy of that #1 spot at the moment. Kept us in the game, but we should have gone on to score from then. It's not like we didn't have chances. When we're playing against Monaco, we've got to take the chances that come to us, because they're going to be few and far between. Walcott should have scored, like I've already mentioned. Ozil should have scored. And Ramsey should have scored as well. Well, actually, if it wasn't for an excellent save from Adrian. But unfortunately, it was getting more and more frustrating as the half went on. But we did get a goal which kind of came absolutely out of nowhere just before the half-time whistle. The best time to score, in my opinion. It was excellent work from both Ramsey and Giroud. Giroud literally just taking the ball off Ramsey, having a shot in the dark, and places it into the top left-hand corner. Past Adrian, no chance of getting out whatsoever. It did take a slight deflection on the way. And it was a great goal. Absolutely great goal. I couldn't be happy for Olivier Giroud. But as I'm saying, I think it actually went into the top right-hand corner. I suppose it depends what way you're looking at it. But it was a great goal by Giroud nonetheless. Couldn't be happier for him. He has got something like 11 goals and 3 assists in 18 appearances for us. Absolutely banging form, and he's got to bring that into that game against Monaco. He can't have another performance like he did in the first leg. I would expect him, considering his record recently, bar the Monaco game, I would expect him to go into the game on Tuesday night full of confidence, brimming with belief. I do think that that game against Monaco in the first leg was certainly a blip from him. I wouldn't be expecting a replica performance on Tuesday night, but he was just involved in practically everything we did going forward, as was Aaron Ramsey. I think these were the two star players, and also Mesut Ozil was linking in really well with those three. I think a lot of what we did that was positive last season, the 2013-14 season, really did edge on these three players. Ozil, Ramsey and Giroud seem to have very good link-up play. They have excellent chemistry and they really are starting to build the spine of the team now. It's a very good influx of players that we've got in that position, not to mention that we weren't even playing with Chamberlain, Cazorla. Very good players going forward, and it's nice to have this squad depth, and it leaves us with a little bit of a selection headache going into that game against Monaco. But focusing on the second half in the West Ham United game, I think it started off well for us. West Ham, again, offering not very much going forward. The only real players that they had that were doing things for them up top were Sacco, who did look very dangerous every time he went forward, but it wasn't like Koscielny it was not too much to handle for our back line. I didn't feel that there was a time when they had a clear-cut chance in that second half, not one that I can think of anyway, but they did look dangerous going forward with Jarvis, with Noble, with Sacco, like I've already mentioned, but it wasn't too much for us to handle, certainly, and we did get that goal, but it didn't come till relatively late on in the second half, which was it was a little bit frustrating in that second half because West Ham were trying to play on the break. They were still trying to defend really well, which I think they did to an extent, especially with a reshuffled back line where they saw Joey O'Brien fill in at right back, and then they had Kayute and Collins in the centre half roles, and I thought Collins actually had a really good game. In my opinion, and as well as that, it was just, like I've already mentioned, it was very hard trying to get past their back four. They did defend very resiliently, and they were trying to put a lot of men behind the ball whenever we were trying to build an attack, and I felt that they certainly man-marked players such as Alexis Sanchez and made it difficult and congested for them at times in the game. But we did get our second goal through Aaron Ramsey. Excellent work by him and Giroud. Like I've already mentioned, the chemistry between these players is absolutely spot on. Played a lovely one too, and watching it back on TV, it was an excellent goal from Aaron Ramsey, putting it past Adrian. A clinical finish. Ramsey probably was man of the match yesterday. I certainly regard him as one of the players that put in the strongest performance, although a lot of players played very well. Coughlin again with another very resilient performance, but I certainly think the player I'll give it to is Aaron Ramsey. I think without a doubt he's got to start that game against Monaco. And again, like I've already mentioned, the selection headache. I mean, if we're going to play Ramsey, do we play Cazorla and Ozil and risk playing one of them out on the flank? I don't know, it's one that I think we've got to think about very carefully, but I don't think we can drop Ramsey, considering he looked like the Ramsey of old, the Ramsey of last season. He put in a good performance today, still relatively young, he can still have a good end to the season. Hopefully it'll come into a bit of form, especially when we need him to, when we've got some very pivotal games coming up, like that one on Tuesday, like the one in the semi-final of the FA Cup, and a very perplexing run in to the end of the league. But to put the icing on the cake, really, a goal from Matthew Flamini kind of came out of absolutely nothing. The build up to it was absolutely superb. Santi Cazorla involved in it, putting the ball in, an assist from him. He'd only been on the pitch about 15-20 minutes, but he just showed how crucial he was. He really did change the dynamics of the game when he came on. In my opinion, he was absolute class, absolute quality. Playing the ball into Matthew Flamini, right place at the right time, really. All it needed, this move just needed someone to put it in the back of the net. It was Matthew Flamini. Pretty happy for him, to be honest. Chances are going to be few and far between for him towards the end of the season. He was in there to do a job, and right place at the right time, back of the net, and it was a lovely move from Arsenal. 3-0 comprehensive win. We sit a point behind City now, and everyone is not talking about us in the title race. I'm certainly not even considering it at the moment, but everyone's talking about how City can still catch up to us. They lost to Burnley yesterday, but if we're going to consider that City is still in the title race, I'd like to think that we are in it to an extent. Of course, it's going to be very difficult for us to win. I don't realistically see us doing it, but I would certainly take a top 2 finish, which is very realistic in my opinion. Having a good go in Monaco on Tuesday night and retaining the FA Cup, that would be a very successful season in my eyes, and it certainly shows progress to what was a very unachievable start to the season. I think I would say results that certainly weren't going our way. Losses to Stoke and, you know, the such results like that. It was just a pretty poor start to the season. It is frustrating to see that if we hadn't got our act together earlier on in October, November, September, etc., then we would be very well in with a chance of winning the title. But it gives me confidence for next season. We've just got to start well. Our team looks very fit, very full now, very healthy. We've got a lot of players coming into their prime. Coughlin playing some excellent football, a good influx of talent going forward. If Ramsey can come into form at the end of the season and do what he did last season for the whole of the campaign, then it can be a very exciting finish. And if we were to beat Chelsea at home in a couple of weeks' time, if we were to beat Liverpool as well, that really would start to put things into shape, into perspective, and it will just make the end of the season all that bit more exciting. But we've got that massive game coming up on Tuesday night. This is the exact kind of result we needed going into that game. But yeah, those have been my thoughts on the game against West Ham United. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a like, rate and subscribe to Arsenal Fan TV. Make sure to check out my own channel, AFC Game by Game, and we move on to Monaco.